The steam rises from the sulfur springs at exactly 40 degrees Celsius, carrying a distinct pungent scent that has permeated this gorge for millennia. It is a sensory assault that signals safety rather than danger, enveloping the brick domes of the Abanadubani district in a perpetual mystical fog. Listen closely to the sound of water slapping against the ancient stones of the riverbed. This is not just a geological curiosity, but the very reason a civilization exists here at all. The earth breathes here. Beneath the cobblestones, a volatile energy waits to be harnessed. While other capitals were founded on strategic hills or near fertile deltas, this metropolis was born from the heat of the underground. It is a place where geology dictated destiny. Legend says that in the 5th century, King Vakhtang Gorgazali was hunting in these dense forests when his falcon struck a pheasant midair. Both birds fell toward the ground, but when the king's retinue arrived to retrieve the kill, they found the animals boiled alive in a bubbling hot spring. The king, recognizing the strategic value of an infinite supply of hot water and the defensive potential of the narrow valley, ordered his capital moved here from Mtusketa. He named it Tbilisi, deriving from the Old Georgian word for warm. Yet the warmth of the springs belies a violent history of cold steel and fire. Geography is a cruel master. Sucked into the vacuum between conflicting empires, the city sits squarely in the gorge of the Mtkavari River, flanked by the Trialeti Range on one side and the Saguramo Range on the other. It is a natural choke point on the Silk Road, forcing merchants, armies, and spies to funnel through its narrow arteries. Control the gorge and you control the Caucasus. For 15 centuries, this city has been the ultimate prize. It has been besieged, sacked, and burned to the ground 29 separate times. Persians, Byzantines, Arabs, Mongols, and Turks have all claimed dominion over these hills, leaving behind a chaotic architectural DNA that defies categorization. The Narikala fortress, perched precariously on a steep hill, serves as a silent witness to this cycle of destruction. Originally built by the Persians in the 4th century as Shirist-Sik, it was expanded by the Umayyads and later the Mongols, creating a layered fortification of stone and mortar that seems to grow directly out of the bedrock. A drone flying through clouds reveals the jagged teeth of these battlements, still watching over the valley. Gravity is the only constant here. By the 19th century, the city underwent its most radical physical transformation under the Russian Empire. The winding, chaotic streets of the Asian Quarter were suddenly juxtaposed with the rigid military precision of European urban planning. Viceroy Mikhail Vorontsov arrived with a vision to turn this Caucasian outpost into a Paris of the East, importing architects and engineers to carve wide boulevards through the ancient hillside. The result was Golovin Avenue, now Rustaveli Avenue, a grand artery lined with neoclassical palaces, opera houses, and government buildings. Concrete mixers worked 24/7 as 15 new skyscrapers rose simultaneously across the financial district much later, but in the 1850s, it was the sound of chisels on stone that echoed through the valley. This was a brutal imposition of order. The chaotic, organic growth of the old town, with its hanging wooden balconies and internal courtyards, was pushed aside for the grandeur of imperial power. Yet, the local builders resisted total assimilation. They took the European neoclassical styles and injected them with Georgian soul, adding intricate wood carvings and massive social verandas to the backs of rigid stone facades. This created the Italian courtyard, a misnomer for a deeply local architectural phenomenon where life is lived publicly, in the open air, surrounded by drying laundry and grapevines. Then came the Soviet era, which brought a completely different scale of engineering intervention. The Soviets did not care for the delicate wooden balconies or the bourgeois boulevards. They cared for concrete, steel, and domination of the landscape. They treated the city as a machine. In the 1970s, as the population swelled, the valley floor could no longer contain the expansion, forcing engineers to look upward toward the unstable, rocky plateaus surrounding the city. This birthed the Nutsubidze Plateau, a Soviet housing experiment that defies physics. Here, 3 massive residential towers stand on a steep slope, connected not at the ground but in the sky by iron bridges. Residents of the lower blocks take an elevator up to the roof, walk across a rusted steel skybridge to the next building's lobby, and continue their ascent. It is a vertical village. Perhaps the most striking example of this era is the former Ministry of Highways, now the Bank of Georgia headquarters, designed by architects George Chakava and Zurab Jalagania in 1975. It looks like a stack of concrete beams dropped by a careless giant. Inspired by the concept of the space city, the building minimizes its footprint on the ground to allow nature to flow beneath it, a rare moment of ecological sensitivity in brutalist design. 18 stories of interlocking concrete grids hang suspended in the air, a structure that seems impossible without modern computer modeling, yet was calculated with slide rules and paper blueprints. It remains one of the world's few realized examples of constructivist architecture, a concrete manifesto of a future that never quite arrived. But the true engineering marvel of Soviet Tbilisi lies unseen beneath the pavement. In 1952, construction began on the Tbilisi metro, a system designed to double as a nuclear fallout shelter. The Rustaveli station digs nearly 60 meters into the earth, requiring passengers to ride a steep, deafening escalator for nearly 2 full minutes to reach the platforms. The tunnels were bored through difficult volcanic rock and water-saturated soil, requiring heavy-duty pumps that still run today to keep the system from flooding. 14,000 workers labored in these dark arteries. The air down here is cool, recycled, and smells of ozone and wet granite. During the chaotic civil wars of the 1990s, when the power grid failed and the city plunged into darkness, these deep tunnels became places of refuge, markets, and frantic transit, the life support system of a collapsing state. Hidden deeper still are the secrets that do not appear on any tourist map. Beneath the charming exterior of the Salilaki district lie vast networks of basements and tunnels, some formerly connected to the secret police headquarters of Lavrentii Beria. It is whispered among historians that the cellars of specific mansions were used for interrogations during the Great Purge, the thick brick walls muffling the screams of the accused. Evidence is scarce. In another corner of the city, camouflaged by an ordinary house, lies the Stalin underground printing house. Accessed through a deep well shaft, this clandestine facility was where a young Joseph Stalin printed revolutionary propaganda on a German Augsburg press in the early 1900s. The engineering is ingenious. A bell system warned the conspirators of approaching gendarmes, allowing them to scramble up the shaft and disappear into the bustling streets above. Today, the rusty press sits silent in the damp dark, a heavy iron ghost of the revolution that reshaped the world. Modern infrastructure keeps the city alive today. The water supply system, channeling glacial melt from the mountains, relies on gravity-fed tunnels that date back to the 19th century, patched and upgraded with modern PVC. The electrical grid, once notorious for blackouts, is now a complex web of high-voltage transmission lines navigating the jagged terrain. Fiber optic cables run alongside ancient sewer lines. The city is a palimpsest. In the 21st century, Tbilisi has attempted to reinvent itself once again, this time through the transparency of glass. Following the Rose Revolution, the new government sought to shed the dark, stone-faced legacy of the Soviet Union. Police stations were rebuilt with entirely glass walls, symbolizing a new era of openness. The skyline was punctured by the erratic, futuristic curves of the Bridge of Peace, designed by Italian architect Michel de Luca. This bow-shaped pedestrian bridge spans 150 meters across the MTK Vari River, its steel and glass canopy illuminated by thousands of LEDs that pulse in Morse code. It was controversial. Traditionalists hated its intrusion into the historic district, calling it a foreign object, while others saw it as a necessary bridge to the future. Just above the river in Reich Park lie the unfinished tubular structures of the Music Theater and Exhibition Hall, massive steel worms that have sat empty for years, a testament to political shifts and stalled budgets. They remind us that urban evolution is rarely a straight line. Meanwhile, the Axis towers have risen to become the tallest skyscrapers in the city, twisting in opposite directions as they climb, an engineering feat that required deep piling into the soft riverbank soil to prevent subsidence. These twin towers, one stone and one glass, represent the duality of the city itself, anchored in the past, reflecting the future. The struggle for the city's soul is currently fought in its oldest neighborhoods. As tourism explodes, the historic districts are under siege by developers. The Tbilisi urban planning map is a battleground. Preservationists like the late Shota Kavlishvili fought to save the old town from total demolition, advocating for the restoration of the crooked, charming streets rather than their replacement. Yet the pressure of money is immense. Historic homes with cracking facades are being propped up by steel beams, waiting for restoration or collapse. In the Gudiashvili Square, you can see the layers peeling back, 19th century plaster falling away to reveal ancient Persian brickwork, while modern steel scaffolding holds the entire precarious history together. It is a race against time. The traffic in Tbilisi is a chaotic river of its own, flowing through narrow streets designed for horse carts. The exhaust fumes mix with the mountain air, creating a haze that hangs over the valley at sunset. To combat this, the city is looking back to its Soviet roots, revitalizing the ropeway systems. New cable cars are being planned to connect the lower districts with the upper plateaus, treating the verticality of the city not as an obstacle but as a transit solution. A helicopter aerial over city districts shows these invisible lines connecting the hills, a spiderweb of transit that floats above the congestion. Tbilisi is a survivor. It is a city that has mastered the art of resurrection, rising from its own ashes with a stubborn refusal to be erased. It does not hide its scars, it builds on top of them. From the sulfur baths that cure the weary to the steel bridges that span the divide, every inch of this metropolis is a testament to human endurance in the face of invasion and geology. It stands as a reminder that cities are not just collections of buildings, but living organisms that adapt, mutate, and endure. The sulfur still bubbles, the river still cuts the gorge, and the city waits for its next transformation.